Hey guys, Charlie again. So, pronouns are they, them. I'm a masculine, not a woman, if you're all are commenting. Okay, so a little about Satan. So I talked in my last video about Lucifer and how they were my spiritual mentor for a hot minute. And they hid very well until they didn't. And Satan, same thing, but different story. So I met them when I first came to this region that I'm currently in the Pacific Northwest, and they had a good story. They were like, I've been through such and such things, I've been through blah 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 blah, I've been transmuting that, I've been meditating and all these things. I'm like, wow, looks like somebody like really turned around their life, like awesome, amazing. Somebody who'd been on the street like me. I'm like, wow, wow. So we ended up becoming friends. We were friends for about 7 years and barely saw them. Like, I just saw them once in a blue moon. But what's fascinating to me is how well they hid until they didn't. I knew that they were like a healer of sorts, and so they would be performing things like removing entities, or people also call them demons, off of people, and charging them. This is the part where there's a little bit of a red flag here. In poor countries like South America type, Central America, those sorts of places, they would be charging people with not a lot of money, who would have to scrape up this amount of money, $5,000, to remove an entity off of them. Now, as somebody who has woken up a lot spiritually and who has actually encountered many demons in my day and many dark forces, and who's had my own entity attachments, because it was hard not to with all the trauma to survive. There's no judgment with source, by the way, about that. It's just, you gotta pay the karma, you gotta figure it out and figure out how to get out of that. And that really starts with going within and talking with source, and really working on your inner child and doing that inner work that people don't like to do. So, but the fascinating thing to me is they were charging $5,000 and saying like, oh, it was hard to get the demon off of me afterward, take me 3 days or whatever. And I'm like thinking about this recently, because they've been popping up a lot recently, because these guys really want my energy. They cannot generate their own energy, so there's rituals around the world that are actually giving them heavy amounts of energy to keep people further enslaved and for them to stay in power. Anyway, again, it's pretty covert, but if you start doing some research, it's out there. So what's interesting is he'd be charging $5,000 to these people who are very, very poor. And first of all, as somebody who's spiritual and operates in very high amounts of ethics, because sources had me go through boot camp of boot camps spiritually. And I have had to really, I am not perfect, but I have had to learn some hard lessons when other people maybe got 20 tries. God was like, no, you got to learn this one this time. So I'm glad for that, because that's my life path, to be helping guide people out of this matrix. So charging people $5,000 to remove something off of them that they're actually is going to cause them more harm than good, because it can seem like, oh, okay, we got rid of that, the child. I think it was oftentimes like a child that was going through mental distress. Demons can do all sorts of stuff and cause all sorts of havoc and problems if you're not protected spiritually. But what's crazy is if you remove a demon or an entity and you don't fill that up and do that inner work with the light, they will come right the fuck back, usually within a couple days, and usually with some demon friends, or whatever your terminology is, entity, whatever. So charging $5,000 for this and not educating people on how they get there and attach to them in the first place and all of that. Somebody who is an extremely spiritual person, very unethical, and then you're charging an enormous amount of money. Like me working in, like I couldn't have been able to come up with that money. Like in America, in the Pacific Northwest, like I wouldn't be able to come up with that money. I didn't have $5,000 to borrow from somebody. So, very unethical. And then, you know, the years went on. Well, towards the end of the friendship, we were hanging out like a few more times. Like, again, we'd hang out like maybe once a year. I think we even skipped a couple years. I barely talked to this guy. But they were here the first week that I was in Seattle. They were here. Like the same place that I was staying, they were there. And we linked up to go hang out with like some other friends of theirs or something. I forget exactly what. They were wearing white. Interesting. I've noticed that that's one thing that people are really call themselves really immoral, and they're, you know, trying to do the right, you know, think that they're above everybody else, right? I noticed that they wear white a lot and they drive white cars. It's just something I've noticed. Not all the time, but I noticed that. It's very interesting. So be aware of people. Just use your discernment, okay? Ask your angels. Because if you are not cut off from source, if you did not choose to be completely cut off from source, you always have a say of what is in your field, what's in your life, who you interact with. Like, you have a choice. Unless you've been placed in a situation with that by source, that's a whole nother story for a different day. Well, you have a choice. So the other red flags started showing up around the last few months that I knew this guy. So he had gotten a ticket driving a vehicle that was registered under me. Picture was taken, obviously it wasn't me driving. Wouldn't take care of it. Red flag. Like, took him like 2 or 3 months. I want to say like 2 months of me bugging him, messaging him, being like, dude, you need to take care of this. They keep reaching out to me and saying, take care of this ticket. Get this fucking ticket taken care of. And then, he kept being like, yeah, I'm gonna take care of it, whatever. I'm like, dude, you're always bragging about how, like, you do this healing for $5,000 and you have all this investment stuff and da da da. I'm like, fucking take care of the fucking ticket. Like, it's under $200. Like, go get it fucking taken care of. It's a red light, for fuck's sakes. And the other thing was, so a little bit of a red flag also there. But the other red flag was, he had asked me, actually, backtrack, this was one of the last things he asked me. One of the things that he started saying was, we had been talking. I forget exactly what was said, but it was something about his mom, and then he was talking about his daughter, and I was like, wait, you have a family? And he's like, yeah. And so he was like talking a little bit about his family. I didn't know he had a family when he was like younger or whatever. And he like couldn't understand why him leaving when they were young, he couldn't understand why they weren't just like so adoring to him when he fucking like reappeared in their life like 10-15 years fucking later. He had no fucking like, the guy was just like, had no idea. He just thought that they were gonna be like, oh, amazing, we have a dad, and like, oh my god, you're showing up to like my recital or whatever the fuck it was. And I'm like, you don't think that that's fucked up? You don't think like you need to put in a little bit more effort and like send some letters, something? Like, he was in contact with one, and he was just like, well, they accepted me and da-da. And I'm like, but if you're not like making an actual effort, like, what? It was just so weird to me. So that was like a huge red flag. And then he starts to proceed to talk about how his mom was like, needed to lose weight, and she was like super overweight, and he was like all pissed about it. And I was like, what the fuck? Women, like, hormones are fucked up, and the more trauma that people have been through, like, I've deep dived into this, the more trauma people have been through, the more likely they are to stay in traumatic states of flight, fight, freeze, all the things, and it be under the radar, and it not really being caught by mental health professionals a lot of the fucking time. And it can manifest as a fuck ton of light on the body. And so it's very important to have compassion for ourselves and for others. And then he proceeded to tell me that I needed to lose 10 pounds. And basically just making me feel like fucking shit. Or trying to. And I'm just like, the fuck? Like, it's taking me so long to be able to just, like, look at myself in the mirror and go, like, you're alright. That was where I was at then. It's a lot better now. But it was just like, what the fuck? So, huge red flag. You don't go around as a spiritual person being like, you need to lose weight. I'm like, how disrespectful to your mother, and how disrespectful to me as your friend to be like, you need to lose 10 pounds. And then I'm like, you need to stop saying that. And he did not like that. He did not like me telling him what to do. He did not like that at all. He was just like, well, I'm going to, it's facts. They need to lose weight, all this stuff. And I'm like, no. So I was very firm on my stance. Okay, the clincher, the thing that just cinched it all. Because again, he paraded himself as like, oh, I've been meditating. I'm this enlightened person. I've, like, healed my PTSD, and, like, I do all these healings, right? Oh, yeah? And this could just seem like a shitty spiritual person, but Source revealed to me this year that they are indeed Satan, hiding in a human suit. He proceeds to ask me to marry him bluntly, not in a cute way, not telling me that I'm such and such, that he likes me, or it had nothing to do with that. It was literally so he could solely adopt a toddler and basically, like, indoctrinate them into his fucking ways, essentially, is what he fucking told me. And I'm just like, the fuck? Like, are you serious? So I'm basically going to be just, like, raising a child for you, so you can then fly around the world, do whatever the fuck you're doing, because he did a lot of traveling. Take care of this child, like, full time for you. Well, you don't pay tickets remotely when they need to be fucking paid. Dip out on your fucking family and then not fucking make shit right. And then ask me to fucking take care of this child full fucking time for you, while you then indoctrinate them with your ways and the fucking shit that you fucking believe, which I'm just like, what the fuck? I was like, I'm done with this shit. So I blocked his ass after he paid the fucking ticket, because that was the last fucking bit, was trying to wrangle his ass to fucking pay the ticket. Finally, they stopped bugging about it or whatever. But it was just like, this has been how these people can fucking hide. They hide in fucking plain sight, because they're not really humans exactly like us. They've been here for tens of thousands of years and just choose human bodysuits to be in, to make it look like they're not what they actually are, but they actually are here for very dark purposes, and here causing some havoc. So my phone battery is about to die, but stay tuned for more, because I have a huge story still to tell.